everybody, and welcome back to the Amazon EU Masters. We're getting ready to go into our 5th game of the day. This is the PG Nats first seed Macko taking on the LFL second seed Karmine Corp. However, Karmine Corp reigning champions of the league, so don't sell them short. If you don't know who Karmine Corp are, you clearly don't use Twitter because their fans are incredibly vocal. And Karmine Corp, you know, this win here, if they find it versus Macko, will go perfect 3-0 in the first stage of the round robin.
Yep. I mean, they were very dominant in spring during the group stage, so expect something similar here if the sort of trajectory is going to continue. And honestly, though, I will say Macko haven't looked that bad. They may be 0-2, but they've actually made the games look pretty close. And honestly, as much as I think K-Corp are going to win this one, I do think that potentially we could see Macko put up a challenge, at least in the early game. And I think that's where they've had the strength. We've seen them pull ahead of teams based on their early plays, early mid-game plays. They're very proactive in that regard, which is something we should be praising. The problem is when it gets a bit later on, they start to make some mistakes. Their setup for team fights and how they approach them particularly has been a bit messy. For K-Corp, it's honestly been the opposite. And this is why I think this is an interesting matchup. K-Corp's early game hasn't been that hot in the first 2 games so far. I'll be honest. We saw them in spring be really powerful in the early levels. Here, it's been a bit messy. But when it comes to mid-game, when it comes to team fighting, they have been absolutely on fire. Their setups have been so good.
I think that's the key thing. It's the decisiveness of KC as you do get a little bit later into the fighting. It's so hard to play versus a team who just, it's almost like it's not 5 players, it's just one kind of machine that knows what everyone's role is within the fight and just decisively going, no, we are fighting here, we are looking for the plays, that's the target we're killing, that's the objective we're taking, and that's what's going to make this hard for Macko. So like you said, yeah, maybe early could be a little bit exciting. We actually do have the Group D, the Group of Death. The standings so far, Karmine Corp are in first place, 2-0. Then Mouse and Vodafone Giants are tied up beneath them. I think, you know, there's still a fair amount to play for. Macko, you know, have unfortunately been put in a very, very tough group. And it's a bit, it's, you know, we look at them and go, oh yeah, they're 0-2. They're, you know, they're arguably the weaker team in this group, but they are also, again, an insanely stacked group. This is the group that everyone was very, very vocal about online when it came out, going, wow, Group D looks terrifying for a second EU Masters in a row.
Yeah, and essentially what's going to come from this is if Macko lose this, they basically have to 3-0 to guarantee. I mean, even then, it's not necessarily a complete guarantee, but to give themselves the best chances, they have to win the entire second round robin. So
yeah,
this is a hard task. This is a hard group. This is a hard opponent. But if Macko want to make it through the next round, they really would love to get this win. And again, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup because I could actually see Macko coming out with an early advantage. I think there's a decent chance to actually come out swinging this one. And again, those proactive plays have been seen, you know, in K-Corp's other games against Vodafone Giants, against Mouse. They did seem like they were sleeping a bit in the early game. So if Macko can find the early advantage, they'll probably still struggle when it gets later because that's been their issue. And again, K-Corp went against Mouse and Giants, fell behind, and were able to bring it back. So, you know, in terms of winning, I'm not super optimistic, but I definitely think Macko can come out with an early start. And again, they've come out with some really innovative and interesting drafts. I mean, they played Nasus mid with double Enchanter bot lane, and you know, they made it work. And I think if you come in with something spicy here, you get a good early game. Maybe you catch K-Corp off guard. They're not really too familiar with how to play against that. They haven't, you know, who's really scrimmed against Nasus mid? Not many teams. That's when we could potentially see Macko find a win. And again, vitally important they start to rack up some wins.
Would you like to see them just, instead of, you know, maybe, you know, obviously you can catch them off of things like the Nasus mid, we maybe like to see them just invest heavily in like a full early game comp and just look to try and, you know, smash their way through, they kind of lean into their advantage almost and, you know, their playing field. No.
Just because I know what's going to happen, right? They'll get an early lead and then they'll just fumble it and they'll lose. So
yeah. I think that's understandable.
I feel like easy to play is a critical thing because, again, I think they can get an advantage if they give themselves team fighting champions that are easy to play and they find an early lead. That is, I think, their best chance, right? Ease of execution, I've talked about a lot, but if you're the weaker team, don't draft something difficult to play. Obviously, there's a lot of context to it. You know, you want to draft what works for your team. You want to draft what counts as enemy team. But at the end of the day, you want to draft something that's easy to play so you can focus on, like, you know, because they've struggled sometimes to approach fights. If you sort of make that element of how to play the fights easier, it means you can focus more on setting them up. And again, it's been kind of heartbreaking for Macko because I think they've actually represented their region well. And over the recent years, we've seen the Italian teams step up. And I think potentially in a different group, or potentially if some of the games they've had so far this week had gone a little bit differently, just a little bit of a difference, we could have seen them actually even make it into the group stage. But it is what it is. Group D is a bit of a painful one, and Macko still not out by any means, but a lot of work to get into a position where they're making it to that group stage, to the playoff stage.
Yeah, I think, if you are Macko, it is a bit of a kind of tough one. You have to swallow the fact you are in the group of death. You are in, the group with the current reigning champions in KC. And, KC, even though they did lose domestically in their grand finals, they're still coming into this, on fire. They want to hold that crown. They want to continue to be the top team here at the European Masters. They've got an incredibly passionate fan base and they want to do them proud because, losing the finals it's probably a big upset. The LFL it's been out of all of the ERLs is one of the most watched ones, and they want to do their region proud. As we are into picks and bans, the Rise going to get taken away from SAKEN. I think if you've been watching the ERLs for long enough, you know that SAKEN and Rise is something you do not want to be playing into.
Yeah, I think there's a fair few picks that I think he can really be unleashed on and cause a lot of issues, and Rise definitely one of them. I think, we talked about them being the second seed for the LFL. Misfits came in with a blinder, but I think K-Corp looked a little bit weaker towards the end of that split, but second place LFL means a lot, right? That is a stacked region. I think everyone would agree. We are continuing. So if you're wondering why there's an Annie, this is a bit of a Sebekx mid lane special, something he's played a lot competitively and in solo queue. The Seraphine getting taken away, that's something they played with that Nasus mid composition. So the bans might look a bit weird from K-Corp, but again, I said, Macko, spicy team, spicy picks, and they are banning completely out towards SAKEN. So they'll take out the Rise, the TF, and the LeBlanc. Very impactful mid laners. They either have roaming power or, even the LeBlanc has a lot of roaming power. So shutting down that potential really allows Macko to potentially find a solid early game, and they are going to lock in that Viego first pick.
Yeah, a lot of attention towards those kind of mid laners. Obviously, Zig's flexible towards the bot side, but like you said, Viego going to get picked up. This does do things like the Zinzal, the Lee Sin open. No Cinkrof plays a lot of the Lee Sin. It's something we've seen, quite a lot from him. Another kind of champion, but we did see a lot of as of late is this Rakan, and again, a Targamas champion as well. Been following him and his career long enough to know that that's a champion in his wheelhouse. See if they're just going to go for their bot lane here. They're going to lock the Ezreal in for xMatty, another champion which domestically has played over the years in his individual leagues. Now Macko looking to probably answer out this bot side, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, so this is where things get interesting because Macko, again, spicy team. You're into Ezreal Rakan. You have freedom here. You can pick pretty much anything into that lane. You should be fairly comfortable. We did see the Seraphine and the Ziggs. I would have definitely expected those to come in. They are going to take the Syndra, but this is something that Bushy plays in the bot lane. So don't think this is instantly a Syndra mid. There is still potential to flex that. The early prio from it can really shut down the Ezreal and stop the Rakan from being able to move. So opens up the possibility while also being a strong mid laner. And again, mid lane's been targeted quite heavily by Macko. By picking that Syndra, you are denying that in a certain sense, but also they now pick the Jayce up. StenBosse says something he's comfortable on, and this means K-Corp, they can only answer one lane. I really like the Lee Sin pick here because although they can put a jungle, Cabochard has been playing at top lane, had a great performance in this tournament on it. So it means that you potentially have an answer, but you can also flex it. So it limits the bans that Macko can throw out.
I need to double check the stats, but this Jayce is hovering close, if not on 100% pit ban so far. It has been very, very heavily contested during the tournament. And with, the kind of really spicy bans and the fact that you do need to think about banning away the Annie, the Seraphine, it did slip through and it gets onto Macko. So, they've got some pretty nice tools to work with here, but what I am worried about is that ease of execution, what you were talking about. Obviously, you do have the scatter the weak to kind of set up some pick potential, but they don't have that kind of really snappy engage so far. And things like the Leona do play towards that, and that's going to get banned away by KC.
Are we just going to see 5 mid bans from Macko at this point? It might honestly happen. I think Thresh is something you could take out. It pairs quite well with Syndra to sort of give that mobility. Nautilus also works. Again, you're against mobile champs, but you can't dodge away from that ultimate. So we'll see what match they'll end up picking, and if they end up flexing that Syndra down towards the bot lane. But the final ban, I feel like it might be, again, a little bit egregious to put another ban towards mid. I think you've cleared out the champion pool enough. They will go for that Xin Zhao. They know the Lee Sin can be top lane, and want to kind of limit that early skirmishing power Cinkrof can pick up. They could take the Trundle here, but I think, you know, it depends whether you're more concerned about that mid lane flex or keeping your flex open. But I think you know it's going to be a Jayce top, so you could just take the Trundle in this situation.
Gonna take the Irelia
flexing.
Now, there's one thing that we haven't actually really hit on is the Varus is open. You did talk about that Thresh as well, fresh Varus. Not all in all a bad pickup here if they want to go for that. It does mean they lean heavily on poke as their kind of like crutch here, but it would actually be an okay rotation for Macko if they want to take that.
But I like this from Corp because essentially they have, you know, 2 picks that are double flexes, right? Lee Sin can go jungle, Lee Sin can go top, Irelia can go top, Irelia can go mid. And it kind of makes it a little bit tricky. I think it probably would be that Irelia top lane and the Jayce. It's something that can dive on him and threaten him when he's trying to harass you. And we actually get the Maokai coming in for Macko. So this is actually a bit of a solo queue special. It has quite a high win rate in solo queue. You often see the sapling play from the Maokai with the Imperial Mandate. So seeing that in the support role, a pretty interesting one. Haven't really seen it too much in competitive. They are going to pair up with Kalista, so you're able to throw that Maokai in. He can then root off the back of that. A lot of point and click CC thanks to Maokai, and then obviously that early pressure for the Kalista. And I love to see that into the Ezreal, because Ezreal is a pretty passive laner, and you can bully him out. Things like Kalista, things like Draven can definitely cause issues. And now we're going to see how the draft from Corp wraps up. It is likely going to be that Lee Sin jungle, Irelia top. Happy with those matchups, and then we'll see what SAKEN opts for. Like he might just lock in this Azir, so very much a long-range composition for Corp, right? They have this great backline in the Azir Ezreal. They can very much kite backwards, but the thing with Macko is they have this Jayce. So if this Jayce gets ahead, the poke can cause an issue. So I'd actually like to see potentially, you know, if Macko take over mid, they spread the pressure to the side lanes. If they get a good early game, I could see them actually taking this one. That being said, Corp, they just have a way of doing things.
They just have it's called winning. That's their way of doing things.
Very good at destroying the Nexus. That's one of their talents, you know.
Best Nexus taker in their group, at least. I think that's fair to say, statistically. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Macko, you know, if this game does start to snowball, that's a pretty scary comp. We're talking a little bit about that kind of ease of execution as well. You've got the very, very wide nature's grasp from the Maokai. You also got the ability to kind of, you know, I choose you, Maokai, and throw them into the middle of the team and lock down a particular target. You have to obviously be a bit worried about the kick to disengage him if you're a little bit too slow on that twisted advance. So there is, you know, tools available to KC to disengage, and then if they do disengage that, like I said, the range could be the problem here for the side of Macko. But you know, early, you know, how are you feeling about this Macko team?
So I think early Macko are pretty alright. They have a strong bot lane. Jayce should be okay in the early levels. It's only really once Irelia hits like 3 and 6 where things get really scary. Mid lane is a bit of an interesting one because the Syndra should have prior. She gets prior to most lanes, but I have seen Azir picked as something that can contest that because he can just pop the soldier down and just shove. And with the mobility, you actually have a way of evading ganks. So I think it's important that we have that aspect because it sort of gives Cinkrof a bit of priority to play around early. But I think the onus is on Macko. We expect them to have a strong early game. They are a proactive team. They have good lane matchups for the most part. It's only that top lane I'm really worried about. And I think if you get your bot lane ahead, you're in a great spot. And again, the Maokai, that point and click lockdown, very good into the Rakan and the Ezreal. I wouldn't be surprised when we come in if we have a cleanse on the Ezreal, maybe even a cleanse on the Rakan as well. And actually, they haven't opted for it. So Click is very happy in this situation, I think, altogether. You pick the Maokai, you expect to see cleanses, not available. That means if you root someone, they're staying in place.
Well, we're on to the Rift for our 5th game of day 3 here at the Amazon EU Masters group stage. This is Macko, PG Nat's first seed from Italy, from the LFL in France. KC, the reigning champions, and also 2nd seed of their own domestic league at the moment. So, you know, not the greatest performance coming 2nd. They are still on fire in a group which everybody had high expectations about. The group that everybody said was the group of death. We'll see how they're going to be able to perform here versus Macko. Macko give themselves some pretty nice tools to work with.
Yeah, honestly, and again, I love that innovation. I think it's a big thing that sometimes we feel is missing from competitive play, is that innovation, trying picks that maybe you aren't as familiar with, because as a pro player, you have limited practice time, right?
Yeah.
You try and get a hold of all the meta champions, get enough games of them, get enough scrim time on them, and sometimes it can be tricky to bring out these more niche picks. And that's why I really respect Macko. A lot of the players are willing to bring out these more niche picks, and the Maokai is one of those. There's a lot of situations you probably wouldn't pick it, but into the Ezreal Rakan, it's a pretty good pick. And unfortunately, StenBosse just face-checked Irelia and has kind of gone to a rough spot already on this level 1.
Luckily for him, he started longsword 3 pots, so does have a little bit more sustain to work with. Keep himself in this lane, but that is going to be a pretty painful start to the lane for him as Sebekx will look for the early shove into SAKEN.
Yeah, and it's the expectation. That's why Syndra's came back in the meta. Her Q mana cost early got reduced, so you can just spam it endlessly. Azir is one of the champions you can also shove pretty well, but right now it will be the edge towards the Syndra, and Sebekx putting down a fair bit of pressure on SAKEN, actually. I remember he picked the Azir into this matchup. Just getting pushed in a bit, but does have that corrupting potion. Obviously able to just keep himself reasonably healthy.
I love how we've seen so far this tournament. Azir, Ryze, Orianna. Nothing says we're getting closer to Worlds than those 3 champions showing up.
Honestly, I feel like the meta has been so good so far this year. This heavy skirmish meta.
Yes, I love it.
Other than a couple of champions who have just ruined the fun, like, you know, Viego.
The Hiprain Aux stage was pretty rough as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was a snoozer, don't get me wrong.
That was the beginning of the year.
Summer was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, we've seen the top lane. Cabochard finds an opportunity to push in, but ultimately can't really do too much. And this is when things are a bit tricky for Cinkrof, because he has 3 lanes pushing in against him. What he ideally wants is to find a gank like this, and that means that Cabochard is going to have some freedom to move up. The minion wave comes in, Cabochard is going to be able to dash to it. If he lands a stun, StenBosse should just be dead, and that missed him.
He felt comfortable to move away, but now he has to go and burn the flashes that are jumping in, and everybody dashes forwards. First blood to Cinkrof, and Cboi not really gonna be able to do too much about that. That Scry's Bloom baited Sten so hard.
Not just that, but your top laner being on that side of the map, you know, he's pathing towards the top side, giving cover to his Jayce, but because the Scry's Bloom missed, and because his jungler's on top side, StenBosse thought he was safe and gets caught out. But honestly, the execution on that play was just flawless, and now they're looking for a turnaround here.
They are looking for the turnaround. They've got the teleport coming in, and now Cboi has to make his way out. Teleport cancelled actually by Sebekx.
That was a mistake.
To the week.
That was such a mistake from Sebekx. Why are you cancelling the teleport? I mean, your teammates are out. SAKEN's really happy. If he could cancel his own TP there, he would have, right? The TP was just a zone Macko away, and now he basically just gets to stay in lane and farm.
Oh, Cabo actually jumping in under the tower. That was a little eager, but he finds the kill anyway.
And honestly, great play from Cabochard. Yes, he dies, but look at this wave that the Jayce is now missing. Jayce has no TP. He's 16 farm down. Yes, Cboi gets to pick it up, but this is a disaster in the top lane matchup. This is the one we were concerned about, was this Irelia Jayce, and things are now really rough. And again, he TP's in here. They don't want to give StenBosse anything, any opportunity. And this is a decision by Cabochard. He knows he will die here. He knows certainly he's going to go down on the back of this play, but he opts to anyway because of the value of taking the Jayce off the map and making him miss all that farm. So great decision from him. Even though it's a 1-for-1, he really puts this Jayce in a difficult spot. And this matchup is not going to get better at 6. Cabochard is just going to look to steamroll this. And again, going back to the point earlier, SAKEN channels the TP top, gets cancelled. He gets to stay mid. He gets to keep farming. So Corp more than happy with how this early game's gone so far.
And, you know, you can see this really starting to bite Sten. There's a 15 CS lead between him and Cabo. Cabo is going to be able to not kill the ward, Sten will defend it, but, you know, when junglers having to do their clears on their bot side, this is, you know, Sten's completely isolated at the moment.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about Jayce, there's 2 sorts of Jayces, right? There's the Jayce who, you know, hits you with a shock blast and it tickles you, and there's the Jayce who hits you with a shock blast and it does 80% of your HP.
Yeah.
It's very feast or famine. And StenBosse being behind, he may well just become irrelevant. And again, we talked about how he was the long-range poke element that could actually cause issues for SAKEN and xMatty later on. If he ends up behind, the rest of the comp is very short range. The Azir and the Ezreal can kind of just handle it. The stun connects.
No, he's going to get himself CC chained and taken down. Cabo able to find himself his second kill.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the power of having that Ezreal Rakan lane. Targamas, a very proactive roamer, something he's very much known for. Moves up to the top side, secures that. And we do see FLICKR here as well to contest, but this is a very mobile duo. They should just be able to get out unless they want to take the fight themselves.
I mean, look at them. They're so dashy. They're so hard to pin down. Cboi has got that level 6 mark and is charging up a cheeky Spectral more, but Sten's not in the area. There's a numbers advantage over to KC, and Sebekx going to have to land one hell of a scatter of the week to keep this going. Cboi continuing to try and contest, however. Just good for a cheeky blow the Ruin King, but not going to be able to pick this crowd up. That was the first one for Cinkrof, so it's still a bit of a jungle lead on that front, but that has been traded out by the top side lead, which is just monumental at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's really scary, and StenBosse just can't do anything. I really got to credit K-Corp. You know, I've been critical of their early games so far this tournament. They looked a little bit lost, but here, absolutely control. And they know the lane to play to, right? It is that top lane. It's such a rough matchup. Oh. Look where StenBosse is. He's down with the bot laners, right? He's down with the supports. Bushy's higher level than him, right? It's rough. It is very rough at this point. And Macko, they haven't really done anything on the bot lane, right? They've been trying to cover that top side, but unsuccessfully. And as a result, xMatty is down in farm, absolutely. But if you're up as Ezreal Rakan into Kalista Maokai, and your Rakan's been roaming, and you're just down some farm, you are more than fine.
I think Cabo's actually holding the wave here. I need to get another look at that and just see exactly what he's doing, because if he is, Sten just can't play the game. Like,
I mean, he can just dive in 1v1, by the way, at this point with ult.
Yeah, I think he can. As Cboi looking at Targamas, but again, it's that slipperiness. It's Ezreal Rakan. It's two champions that are so hard to punish, so hard to catch. So sure, Cboi, you know, has got an advantage over Cinkrof in the experience area, in the gold he's got in his pocket.
Look at the end of the day, top lane, by the way. Oh, it's not good.
It's just so rough.
And the thing is, at this point, TP coming in. This is the Syndra.
Dive. Gonna jump in onto xMatty. He's forced to flash away. Teleport here by Sebekx. He unleashes power. There's the knockup. There's a big scatter of the week. Bushy finds the kill. Make it 2. Macko finally answer out as Sten continues to get bullied around. SAKEN will secure a kill on the other side of the map.
You know, gotta say though, Macko gotta be happy with this, that Jayce was useless anyway, so you're not losing much. This is a proactivity I'm talking about. Macko very good at setting up plays like this. They find the dive, and even though Cinkrof's there to defend, they're confident to go for it. They know they have the numbers advantage. They know have the CC to go for this one. And the Ezreal Khan not particularly strong, Bushy particularly on this cluster great in these early skirmishes. So they managed to get 2 of those 3 members down, thanks to that great engage, the Maokai and the follow-up from the Syndra. And then on the back of that, they're able to get a ton of plays. And when your top is going this badly, you desperately need to make plays, because the thing that's happened here is that top lane is at the point where Cabochard doesn't need help to solo kill. Look at the item difference. He already has his Blade of the Ruin King. StenBosse can't harass him because Cabochard will heal to full HP by queuing like 3 times. And anytime Cabochard wants to, you can probably just solo kill him. It's so rough, but Macko needs to just focus on making the rest of the map work. Your Jayce is useless. Forget about him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a 2-level lead topside. It is so rough for Sten right now, and unfortunately, he's just got to play this one nice and chill. Cboi might find himself caught out by Cinkrof. Is able to jump over that Spectral more as Targamas tried to come in. Cboi over the wall, actually able to secure that one, and Sten has roamed over as well to just make sure that his jungler can find some gold.
Yeah, we did see the Herald secured by Cinkrof though, so he has that in pocket to throw down. I feel like, honestly, you never want to throw this down top lane. You can honestly hold on to it for a bit. You don't want to take top tower, just simply because the longer that lane is in place, the longer Cabochard can free farm anyone who turns up. Look at StenBosse. He's not even going top lane. There's no way he can be on the map.
That's a dead tree. Oh, I think Click didn't expect that one to come down, and SAKEN just giving a second kill.
Sorry, it's just he's like You press W, you're like, I'm going, and then SAKEN just takes someone a ride on a tower, throws him under. Now, StenBosse like, right, okay, that failed. Let's go top lane. Look at that shock blast. It did nothing. Cabochard, auto, and he's gonna Q. Oh, he's full HP. There we go. So,
and he's getting first tower blood. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess Corp won't accelerate this game.
I would like to take a quick look at the gold and just see how big of a lead it is. It's already enormous, and it's about to get larger. There's the total gold on your screens as well. Lovely little graphic there. Yeah. Sten has 2.5 grand. Almost 7. Oh, almost 6, sorry, for Calvin.
They can get a tier 2 here as well and get even more gold. I think the reason they're going for this play, you know, I talked about keeping the tower alive, locking the laning phase, but bot lane is bleeding for Corp, so they actually want to end that. I don't think they're going to be able to maybe get this tower, actually. I think it probably could stay for if he wants to, but it's just going to survive for now. There's a ton of gold available there, but again, look at bot lane. Look at the CS lead between AD carries. The play's getting taken by Bushy. This is why they're taking that top lane, because they need to free up Cabochard to move on the map and give Matty a place to farm. They will get that second tower. 600 gold in pocket for Cabochard. So he is monster fed, I think, is the only way I can describe it. But the counterpart is that bot lane difference at the moment, pretty in favor of Macko.
I do feel, though, one Cabochard showing up in this bot lane could really change the dynamic of the lane. As Bushy, you get a whole bunch of damage off.
He's
into
level
Targamas.
9, by the way. He's actually the same level as Cabochard.
Yeah, he's pretty big. He hasn't finished an item yet.
I mean, he's going to have a lot of golden base, but
yeah,
he is very strong right now. And it's kind of that opposite sides of the map, right? Macko, very strong bot lane. Corp, very strong top lane. But now they're looking for Bushy. This could be big if they find something.
Flash, does have the heal. Cinkrof also has the flash and just burns the heal out from Bushy. So it gives that mobility and kind of a bit of a punish as Click left the lane. Click hasn't got that level 6 available quite yet. And Cabo actually made his way over to the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, this is a scary Irelia. So you don't want anything to do with that at this point. You know, we do see the item come in for Bushy, but there's still more gold on Cabochard thanks to that first tower being taken, thanks to the second tower being taken. He's now going to pick up more plates here. I mean, it's difficult. It is really difficult to deal with this. They are now moving bot to defend, but Cabochard is just going to be such an issue on his own, right? You have to answer it, and StenBosse just can't. You can actually see he's frozen top lane, but the freeze is, I think, going to break pretty shortly after. I think he took a bit of time to try and take some waves. He's not pushing it, but it is now going to push into the direction. He's going to try and pick up as much farm as he can, but he won't be able to hold up for long. So it's going to push in the tower, and he really has nothing to do at that point because he can't overextend. But we see from Corp.
Oh, bringing people over. Bushy able to find the kill. The shot rush is there. Look for Cabo, flashes into Bushy's face. Misses the flare back. Cboi trying to find an opportunity to turn that one around. Macko find a kill, and Sten's teleported in on the flank. He's not the strongest, but he's here. There's the scatter. There's the unleashed power. Cabo shut down. Bushy secures the kill. And that is the one person who they needed to give the money over to. Macko,
and honestly,
good play.
Huge amount of gold. There's a massive top wave that no one's answering at the moment, so they're going to have to go pick that up. Macko set this up pretty well, right? The freeze had ended for StenBosse. He had nothing to do in the top lane. He needed to find something on the other side of the map. He comes in, joins in with the play, and they kill the Irelia. That massive shutdown in the hands of Bushy. And Corp, just a bit overzealous, right? Over-aggressive in this situation. This is some of the mistakes they've been making in other games in this tournament so far. They push too far forwards. Cabochard uses all his abilities, so he's in no way to dive on top of the Irelia. And then Sebekx comes in. Beautiful opportunity here to get the stun. The burst damage from the Syndra shuts down the Irelia. And again, that massive amount of gold put onto the Kalista, who was already fed, right? This was already a strong Kalista, and it's just got worse.
Really nice stuff there from Macko, and they were able to secure that turret as well at the end of that. Now got the Rage Knife finished up onto Bushy, so it's starting to, you know, convert that crit into on-hit instead. Eclipse finally finished up for Sten, but, I mean, you got the Gore Drink on Cabo, so, I mean, top lane items are probably a little bit irrelevant for a little while. Is there a point where Sten actually comes back into this game, or do you just think he's useless for a very, very long time and it's just not even worth it?
It's not even worth talking about. I mean, Jayce isn't sort of the champion who's like he is a champion who will spike on lethality items and wants to be ahead of the curve, right? If a Jayce is ahead, he's monstrous. If a Jayce is behind, he's pretty underwhelming, and it doesn't really matter what point of the game that is, right? Eventually he'll have 6 items, and that, you know, that's great for him. Well, if he gets to that point of the game, but for the time being, he's just underwhelming. That's not really going to change anytime soon. He's just trying to become relevant, pick up as much farm as he can. He wants to be at least at the point where he can hold up the Irelia, but honestly, it's difficult.
Targamas is looking for Cboi, although it's quite hard to do so when Click's about. He's got the Nature's Grasp available.
You know, and Sapling's super strong for just division control. Throw them in a brush. Whenever anyone face checks, they hit them. It isn't the mandate build you often see in solo queue where, you know, they do a ton of damage, but he is still going to have that point and click CC. He's still going to have that brush control that he's throwing down that makes it hard to face check into. And it should just be Macko picking up the Herald. They use the ult just to stop K-Corp from contesting. And, you know, considering K-Corp had this Omega fed Irelia in the top lane, right? Macko are doing pretty well. It's now 2.5 minutes till that Infernal Dragon. That would be their third. Be a pretty big one to be able to pick up.
Looks like they're looking for a potential pick onto SAKEN. Remember, SAKEN, no flash. Did just get that R back, but I choose you. Click. Getting thrown in. The knockup's going to be enough. SAKEN will be burning low as Cboi looks to try and finish this kill up. Able to do so as the tower does get put up in time. Targamas trying to jump away, but Cboi slides out. Bushy's on his lonesome, though. The shielding is huge, but it's not going to be big enough. Cabu takes him down as Cboi jumps over the wall. They have got the backup of Sebekx. I think that's going to be all she wrote for Macko, though. They're going to back off.
I mean, in the end, it's a 1-for-1, and K-Corp get a massive shutdown, and Cabochard gets his revenge, but ultimately you look at the map. Mid lane, Sebekx just pushed a massive wave in. Bot lane, StenBosse just pushed a massive wave in. These two have had time to farm, and because K-Corp committed resources there, yes, it's a 1-for-1 trade. Yes, they got more gold, but more gold onto Cabochard has diminishing returns, right? You've already got such a massive lead. I think the fact that Macko are getting value on the other members puts them in a decent spot. It's not that bad of a play overwhelmingly, thanks to the fact that it was obviously that 1-for-1, and they got that extra pressure on the sides. And we can see how this one panned out. Very difficult for SAKEN to escape the Maokai in the situation, the point and click CC, but he does find a little bit of a window. He gets out of range before Bushy can rend, but then we see the chase from Cboi, steals the Azir, and then dashes away again. It does leave Bushy in a bit of an uncomfortable spot. Cabochard obviously just mirders him, but the fact it was only a 1-for-1, the fact Macko got the push in waves bottom mid, they're reasonably happy. And now they are set up for this dragon. They need to deal with Cabochard in this fight, but Flash has just come up for Bushy, so they're feeling pretty positive overall on their chances here.
They haven't got that Fate's Call available quite yet for Bushy, though.
StenBosse has no TP, and he's in the top lane, so he needs to make his way down quickly. It's 30 seconds till the dragon, but because he's not here, K-Corp can push in and get control of the area. But the Rift Herald is going to force pressure.
He's doing as what Foxtrot called the Peasant's TP, which is walking down. It's going to be here in time, but charge goes down. It gave a brief moment of pressure over, but look at Cinkrof. He's, I believe, been spotted out on the ward here. Cinkrof going to eat that blast gun, and Click actually goes all the way over, but he's on his lonesome now, and SAKEN just able to take him down. Bushy didn't quite have that Fate's Call in time, and Sten does get a little bit of damage onto SAKEN, but I think this is going to be KC's dragon.
Yeah, it's actually very difficult for Macko to move in, right? Because you're playing into things like the Azir, the Ezreal, the Lee Sin, very mobile, but also can fire for a lot of damage as you push forwards. Macko wanted to have control of the area. I think Bushy might just be dead.
Goes in for the flash. He gets the shield bow prop for the moment, but he is dead. Bushy just overstaying.
And these are kind of some of the mistakes we start to see later on for Macko. Firstly, they lose control of the dragon area, right? And this was critical because you want to have control so that Maokai can start throwing saplings, so K-Corp has to push in. Instead, they're forced to make a play like this. Once again, the mobility of these champions pulls Click away, allows them to take him down, and then this is just a follow-up mistake from the Kalista. There's no reason to be pushing this far forwards from Bushy. Just pretty greedy when you know the enemy team are in the vicinity. And it's not just the fact that there's SAKEN and Targamas. xMatty was there, Cinkrof was there. They had the follow-up. They managed to get a kill on that Kalista. And K-Corp, you know, saw a little bit where I felt like Macko were getting control, but K-Corp feel back on top once again.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, a couple of mistakes back to back from Macko's now, you know, let what was slowly coming back towards them in their favor. Slip as Bushy 2 times in a row just been a little bit too overeager, not willing to play with the team, and you know, not playing around those ultimate timers either. Has been somewhat costly as Targamas trying to contest the vision and should be able to do so, although Cboi poking and prodding somewhat.
I think this is where things start to get hard for Macko, right? Talks about it coming in the draft. This composition of K-Corp can sit back at a very long distance. Azir, really long range, mobile, can disengage easily. Ezreal's the same thing. And Macko are kind of going to struggle to get in range, right? The Maokai is there to sort of, you can throw him in and he can root one person, but if they peel back, he just pulls the Maokai with them and then they go down. StenBosse's poke isn't really online enough to threaten, and so K-Corp can just push forwards and they feel confident, you know? SAKEN felt threatened, he dashes back, he's safe. And it's difficult for Macko at this point. They really need to get control of an area like the Dragon, like the Baron, and then have K-Corp funnel in. That's where things would work out best, but there's no objective they can threaten right now to sort of open up that opportunity.
You got 3 items picked up as SAKEN jumping in onto StenBosse. And it might just be a 5th death for him on the cards. Does get a bit of movement speed off, but Targamas is going to pop the yard. SAKEN, he's not even going to take any damage. Sten can't do anything right now.
You know, the saddest thing is if this was a different champion from the Jayce, he might still be useful, but Jayce is just so useless when behind. K-Corp gonna move on to that Baron now. Oh,
looking for the scatter. That's pretty big. He gets it. Heartbreaker after Heartbreaker. Cboi has some sword forms to steal away. Synkrof can't do too much. Bushy locked down for the moment. They're jumping in onto Sebekx, but they're finding the CC. They're jumping in. Cabu is going low, and Bushy finds the kill. Macko turned it back around, and they're gonna start up Baron.
Critical error there from the side of K-Corp. They start the Baron, they feel confident with the numbers advantage, but this means they're corralled into the pit. xMatty mispositioned slightly, but he gets engaged on, locked down. Sebekx with a beautiful play, and they're able to clean up. And with the Viego, all you need is a couple of kills to get things rolling. They'll pick up the Baron, and just as I was saying, K-Corp felt in control, they lose Slip once again. And here's the thing, the vision setup isn't really there. Maddie gets caught out of the fog of war. He's not really in position. They're stuck in the pit, so they can't escape easily. And Cabochard may be fed, but Cboi gets the double reset to heal. And then the CC comes in, and the damage from Bushy is there to finish off this Irelia.
Absolutely lovely play by Macko to pull this back. And it was just an instant assassination off onto Cinkrof and Matty. Cboi and Sebekx really set the team up for success on that, and now they've got this Baron in their pocket. They can finally crack open this mid lane turret, and ultimately what this means is it opens the map up so much more for Macko. They can feel more comfortable to, you know, play some of this deeper vision and set up for this Dragon that's spawning in 40 seconds time. They're going to commit for the tier 2 as well. Might as well gain that extra gold when they can. Obviously they won't be able to spend the gold, although they are looking to send Sten back to base, and they are going to cancel it as they're continuing the siege here. Teleport flank coming in from Cabo though, and it looks like they're now going to back off. Look for Cinkrof though, gets the kick onto Click. Cabo on the flank.
They just need to turn and burst him.
There it is, Vanguard's Edge goes down. Bushy able to kite away. Click, actually good arcane smash onto them, but Targamas comes in. They find a knockoff on the free. Scatter the Wit's going to disengage momentarily. Now Targamas just loses his life. The turnaround, Bushy popping off.
This is the thing, K-Corp's composition wants to be kiting backwards in terms of Targamas, Maddie, SAKEN. They want Macko to move forwards and then they can disengage. In this situation, they dive forwards and Macko are like, fine, we'll just burst down that target. The single target damage with the Syndra, with the Kalista, is extremely high. And yes, K-Corp managed to push in the side lanes, but we now have a 3rd Dragon over to Macko, 1 away from that soul.
And I just saw Sten actually do some damage. I mean, Cabo obviously will heal back up, but he's actually doing a little bit of damage now, so not entirely irrelevant. Still behind the curve, like you said, but is definitely in a better position than he was 10 minutes ago.
The big thing is they picked up some towers, only 3, not a massive amount, but they picked up the Baron, which gives a lot of gold, you know. And as a result, he's able to actually get to that 2-item point, so he isn't as behind as he was before. He's gained a fair bit of XP from that as well. He's level 13, still behind compared to the rest of the solo laners, but he is more relevant. He's not going to hit that superpower Jayce point, but again, the Jayce has a lot of value in this game because it has damage that can reach SAKEN and Maddie from such a long distance. And
yeah,
ultimately, this was on K-Corp. The only mistake they could do was start the Baron up without proper setup and allow Macko to catch you in that position. And that is what has put them in this point of power. Now, K-Corp still up in gold. They still have that Irelia. SAKEN is extremely strong on this Azir. But it definitely feels a much closer game than people would have expected going into this one.
But the gold lead is nowhere near what it was, you know, not that long ago. The Baron has done a lot of work for Macko to be able to pull this game back. Now, Sten's still incredibly weak, so there's nothing he can really do. He's going to have to give this tower up over to SAKEN. But on the other side of the rift, Macko are quite happy to trade the tier 1, push a wave in on the top side and back off. They're not going to trade tier 2 for tier 2, but honestly, any gold they can accrue is good gold for them right now.
I think as well, the thing you have to think about is that gold lead is kind of misleading because it shows the overall lead between the teams, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But you have to look at the fact that Cabochard has so much gold in his pocket, right? You kill Cabochard, you wipe so much gold off the map. But vice versa, right? You look at the amount of gold available to Bushy. It's overall, the gold is very close, like only 1,500 apart, but individually, the top lane gap, the AD carry gap is massive. Even the mid lane gap is pretty substantial. You know, the gap between the mid lane is as big as the gap between the teams. Is a crazy thing to think about. And that's why it's so important who dies in these team fights. Not just numbers, it's not like 2 for 2, it's who specifically dies, because there's so much different value between different members.
If you kill Cabo, you take 4,000 gold off KC. That is the difference between him and StenBosse right now.
I mean, yeah, if you trade top laners, if you just kill Cabo outright, then even better. You'll take that one any day of the week. Now, Dragon in 2 minutes. Both teams very early invest in control. Now, Macko do have their side lanes pushing, so they don't really need to answer anything right now. They can kind of just wait, and K-Corp will eventually have to answer these side lanes and miss out on a ton of gold. But that does mean that K-Corp are confident to push in now and get some vision. This Dragon is going to be super important. Infernal Soul, everyone knows, one of the strongest in the game, and that extra burst damage can make a big difference for Macko. K-Corp need to bring out some of that K-Corp magic on this fight. And again, sort of win cons is these tight-knit close-range fights are actually pretty good for Macko. K-Corp want their carries separated. They want Azir and Ezreal just able to free hit from the back, while the rest of the team can sort of buy time. I think the single target damage is pretty insane, honestly, from Macko. So they have to be aware of that. If someone oversteps, they can get bursted. Vice versa, if you get a big, you know, ult from the Irelia, you get a big stream of shuffle, it could just instantly turn things in your favor.
You can tell as well that this Dragon's important. Just look at the inventories right now, Macko. 4 stopwatches. Everyone has a stopwatch to make sure Cabo can't just reset city through this fight. There are a couple of stopwatches on Cabo and Cinkrof as well, so a couple of stopwatches to keep in mind. So overall, I expect to see a lot of people going golden in the next fight.
It's gonna
be really about positioning for Bushy and Sebekx if they want to carry Macko through this fight. Sebekx, I know we've gushed a lot over Bushy, but Sebekx has honestly had some amazing game-defining scat of the week.
Oh, look at Matty.
Sten, I see you, friend. I see you. That was a lot of damage onto Matty.
And it's actually really...
seconds, he has to reset.
Yeah, it's really important. This is a critical thing. This is why that Jayce was so important. One of the few champions who can land long-range poke onto things like the Ezreal and the Azir, and chunking Matty out really important. Now Cinkrof behind enemy lines, potentially looking for this flank. Yeah, they know he's there. They saw him on that control ward. I think Cinkrof is kind of working out what he wants to do here, but it control the areas over to Macko. You see some poke come down. This is a critical fight.
Click is trying to zone Cinkrof away for the moment. That does mean Click isn't here with the team, and he's the one who can lock Cabo in place. Dragon's gonna get pulled up, it's gonna get started. Cboi looking for Targamas, finds himself the stun, but the soldiers from SAKEN doing a lot of work, and now Cboi heavily chunked out off the back of that little pick onto Targamas. Blast comes in from Sebekx, trying to find a bit of additional damage, but Click and Cboi getting slowly but surely heavily poked out here as the Nature's Grasp goes down. Sten trying to zone away onto the flank. The Dragon's going to get started, and Sten's actually going to knock Cinkrof away. The Dragon's secured. That soul picked up. Targamas going to go back. Bushy pulling people in. Nobody has died, but the soul has been secured. So Macko overall very happy with that. But look at the wave in that top side, heavily shoving in. And Casey may use this opportunity just to bolt towards that Baron Nashor.
I mean, again, I think Macko are fine with this. If they end up trapping themselves in the pit, K-Corp could be in a bad spot. So they're going to look to try and engage. They just can't find the angle. It's so hard. If you dive too far forwards as Targamas, you'll get bursted out. And your team aren't really in a position to follow. The Infernal Soul gives so much power out of Macko that they have to respect at this point.
There's the slow onto Cabo. They get the scatter, they get the damage! Gets his shield off on the stairs for the moment, throws out the Vanguard's edge. Cboi very, very low, but still has that flash available to him. This game has gone from, okay, KC are winning to super tight. Super tight.
I swear, if Sebekx had just been able to press R there, Cabochard was dead. He's level 16 at this point, he even has the extra range on the ult. Very close just to seeing a dead Irelia and a Baron over to Macko. Macko's health and mana a little bit low. I'm not a fan of this play. I know the resets have come in, but there is TPs. This feels risky. You don't need to throw here. TP flank coming in from Cabochard.
They might just turn on the Cabo. He goes for the stun onto multiple members, able to do so. Macko low HP now themselves as they need to look to reset, and this is now KC's opportunity to start up the Baron. No teleports available to Macko, so they have to cancel these resets as Targamas finds himself locked down for a little bit, but the Baron's already secured here. I don't think they're going to be able to contest it. Cboi flashes in, SAKEN's heavily jumped out, and KC find the kill onto the jungler. 45-second death timer for Cboi.
Just a fumble for Macko. No reason to go for the Baron there. You had low health on Cboi. You had low mana on Sebekx. Just back off, reset. You have Infernal Soul for the rest of the game. What's the rush? And they end up overstaying, and it gives that window to K-Corp. The steal attempt comes in, but fails, and now K-Corp have that Baron. 4K gold lead doesn't mean nearly as much now as it did earlier in the game, especially when you're up against Infernal Soul, but this gives K-Corp another opportunity to push up and apply some pressure.
Also, with the now Soul being taken, you do have to keep in mind, Elder will be spawning up. 3 minutes 30 until it comes up, so there's a bit of breathing room, bit of time. It won't completely overlap with this Baron Nashor buff.
Yeah, that's actually important to talk about. We now have like some games you get them at the same time. We're now going to have like a desynced Baron Elder. So essentially K-Corp, they want to use this Baron, push waves in, threaten structures, and then on the back of that, maintain control over the Dragon area for when the Elder Dragon spawns. The Baron's going to time out a bit before then, at a minute, but it means if you have vision down already, you can reset, pick up wards, reestablish it. But now, though, they're just looking to try and take structures. But again, you have to be so careful. Infernal Soul, a lot of power to Macko, and there's a lot of strong members on their side.
But she's got a Guardian Angel, so does have that safety. A SAKEN going very low. Sebekx ulting, almost going down himself, but seeing the power of that Soul coming into fruition, as Sebekx needs to go back and reset. Bushy doing his best to hold the wave, but teleports coming in. SAKEN rejoining the rest of Karmine Corp. And it's honestly on Macko to try and just weather the storm through this siege from the Baron. They will lose their tier 2 in the mid side. Are they going to have their base cracked open here? Or are they going to be able to hold as Sten not even got his third item? Almost on full build for Cabochard. Level 17. Cabo's almost as strong as it gets for him this game.
Yeah, those double cannons are doing so much work, and there's very little Macko can do to sort of engage, because again, you have to just run forwards and into the Ezreal and the Azir. It's so difficult to do. It's going to throw down the ultimate to zone off. They've already lost that bot lane tower.
Yeah, they're looking just going for the fight. The Scout of the Week doesn't quite hit onto the targets they need. And Nature's Scott's going to go down. So 2 towers will fall to open inhibitors, and it looks like probably 2 inhibitors as well. Or at least this bot lane in him. 1 minute 30 before the Baron comes up, before the Elder, comes up. Expect to see, with this wave getting shoved in by the supers, Macko will probably be able to just shove through here because they know the next objective is going to be on this bot side of the map. So it's not the worst inhibitor for them to lose.
Yeah, it's not the worst inhibitor ultimately. And again, I really like the decision from K-Corp to recall when the Baron buff was just up for like a couple more seconds. It means particularly Targamas gets to reset fast with the empowered recall. He's back on the map already. You can see Macko are resetting. This is kind of what I was talking about. Those desynced neutral objectives. Now it's a minute till Elder. K-Corp are already back on the map. They've got little tiny bits of vision throughout the red side jungle, but after pushing this mid wave with the supers who will push bot, they're now able to re-establish that vision and get control. It is so important which team is at an objective first and has the vision set up, and Corp are making sure that they will be in that position.
Looks like the vision is heavily set up for KC. KC, you know, this game got a little bit slippery, a little bit scary for them, but they have done a good job of pulling it back. The gold lead now very much in their favor. You just have to keep in mind there is that Infernal Soul. Targamas is going to eat up that shot blast from Sten, who now has the grudge finished up, so 3 items on him. Probably not the ideal time for him to have it, but he's got it. Bushy with that Guardian Angel. It's going to be a really big one to watch here. Sebekx also very, very strong. Level 17, almost max all of those abilities, meaning get the full use here as Cinkrof might find himself in trouble. Ward hops away from Click though. Click's just going to clear out this vision for now and gonna have a bit of a breather before this dragon gets started.
It feels so tense, and again, Macko have to find a way to move in. Honestly, the Infernal Soul Rift makes it a bit easier, more routes to cut through, and they're trying to get in position. Again, we're looking at the Ezreal, the Azir. Can they stay at max range and keep putting out the damage? What can Cabochard do on this Irelia? And can Cboi start to get some resets? They're just toying with the Baron, the Dragon at this point. Some good poke from xMatty. He's actually going to chunk them out. Look at this flank coming in.
Yeah, they have a very nice flank, and, you know, Sten's on a flank himself, but it doesn't really offer too much. Here's the Nature's Grass going forward. Cinkrof actually been caught out by Sten. Sten gets bot back, gets Kid back, and SAKEN's looking for the kill. They're able to find a bit of xMatty and Bushy going 1 versus 1. And that is going to be the kill picked up by Cboi. It is a 1-for-1 so far. AD carry traded out as the Heartbreaker gets used. Bushy recalls his support to make sure Click isn't going to get absolutely blown up, and they've got to deal with the waves, so I feel this Elder may just be given over here. Click is just too low, but Cinkrof has been caught. Guardian Angel's been burnt. Cabo not able to find himself the snare, and they're just teleporting into the base. They're looking to close this one out. They're looking for the assassination. Bushy's untouched for the moment, but he's lost his support. He's lost his help line. His front line's down. Cabo's going to go golden. Targamas could just be next to go. No, they find the stun of the Cabochard. The SAKEN is inside the base. He's looking to find the end here. The resets are coming in. Can Sebekx hold the day? Can he hold this? He's going to shuffle back. The scatter goes wide. SAKEN coming in with the back door and the kill. KC find the win.
And what a fiesta, honestly, but what a great game. Corp managed to find method in the madness, managed to get that back door in the end. Honestly, it was such a back and forth game. It kept feeling like Corp had control. Then they lose it. Macko gets control. And it just felt like this constant back and forth going between the two. The Infernal Soul, by all means, the strongest soul going to the Macko, but still not enough. And SAKEN with the clutch call to TP in for the back door ends up being enough to close it out. I mean, super good play from both sides, in all honesty. And it's heartbreaking for Macko because I feel like every game they've had so far has been a fight. And it's been so close to the cusp of this victory, but they just weren't able to follow through and get the win.
There's a lot to talk about, and we will be doing that. But before that, we're going to have a quick break. And when we're back, we'll break down game number 5. So we'll see you in a moment. He's going to flash in, and he steals the bomb. How did that connect by Edgeway?
Fini! As EU Masters Champions!
I'm feeling like it's pulling me under. You tell me
everybody, and welcome back to the Amazon EU Masters. That was maybe not the expectation we had. We set that, we thought Macko were going to do good early and then fall apart mid-game. They did horrendous early, and goddamn did they put a performance on to pull that back. And that was getting scarily tight for KC in that game.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the best performance we've seen from Macko so far. I think there's a lot of credit we can give to them, right? I think 100% some good proactive players on the bot lane to just shut xMatty out of the game completely. This Ezreal was such a non-factor for a really long time. I want to give credit to StenBosse because he did not have a fun time that game. And in honesty, the matchup was hard. The play from Corp punished him, but he managed to find relevance later on. And then we saw some mistakes from Corp. It was the dream scenario for Macko, and there was the belief that maybe they could make it, but there was one factor that sort of came in for Corp, and that was SAKEN. This Azir felt untouchable. Constantly this massive threat on the backline, and then he ended up being the man who went for that backdoor play to round out the game. Really, I think there's a lot of praise for multiple members on both sides here, but SAKEN just seemed a step above.
I mean, this backdoor teleport was such a heads-up play, and Sebekx was like, I need to get out, but you had to do a Targamas first. And honestly, if Targamas hadn't been a nuisance, potentially SAKEN couldn't have ended here, but he found that assassination off, and what a roller coaster of a gold difference over time in this game. Honestly, and look at that, at the end of the day, Sten did 300 damage less than Cabochard. So, considering how hard pushback he was, he did find a way back into that game. And, unfortunately, like you said, Macko now need to realistically win every game in the rest of the round robin, and that is they've lost to all of their teams in their group. And even if they win all 3 games, they're not guaranteed to actually make it out of the group.
And I'm gonna say something crazy here, right? And I'm gonna say something crazy here for sure. I think Macko, it's actually a possibility. Sometimes you see a team who goes 0-3 in the first round robin, and you're like, okay, well, they have to win all 3 games to be with a good chance, but it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. Macko was so close every time. Do I think they're going to go 3 on the second round robin? It's not super likely, but it's possible. We saw every team they faced looked beatable. Every team, it felt like they pushed them. And even Corp here, the reigning champs, they made it close. So if Macko can show up some issues, get a bit better at closing the game out, a bit cleaner around those setups for objectives in late game, I could actually see them putting in a good run. It's definitely an uphill battle, but, it is called a group of death for a reason. But Corp, they will be on top 3 on the first round robin. We're not surprised. The manner in which it happened, maybe a bit so, definitely closer than I think might have anticipated. I think that's telling for the fact that they aren't the LFL's first seed. They didn't have, coming in the spring, they 3-0'd Misfits. In the summer, they were the ones who didn't get 3-0'd, but got, taken out in the finals. And I think we saw, they had that big undefeated streak in the regular season. And then towards the end, they started to drop some games. And I think there is still that Corp magic, but they don't feel unbeatable right now.
I think it's fair to say that Macko might decide Group D with one singular win. Like, it really could shake things up. But anyway, we're going to be moving on with Group D for our final game of the day. It's going to be Mouse versus Vodafone Giants. So this one is going to be a doozy. Don't go anywhere. See you in a moment.
He's going to flash in, and he steals the ball. How does that connect by Edgeway? Finish. As EU Masters champions.